felt just around the time that we moved up to Pinto Church, and happened to be my neighbor, and we are very good friends. So we learned on Wednesday, someone met me and asked me for notes for Wednesday because they weren't here. But I can briefly tell you that what we learned on Wednesday, we introduced the churches on Wednesday. We dealt with the Ephesus church, and we learned about the Nicolaitans, the Gnostics, and the Diocletians, and that church at that time was on fire for God. Okay, readers, I want to thank our readers who have been very proficient, and our technical team for working so hard with me and corrected what I did wrong. So we learned on Sabbath that God gave the revelation to Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ gave the revelation to Gabriel. And Gabriel gave the revelation to John. And John is giving it to us. I would want us to note that at the beginning of his address, in teaching the church, Jesus Christ reminds us at the beginning of every message to each church, he says, I know your works. Jesus is saying, I know what you did. I know what you are doing. I know what you plan and will do. There's only one who can do that. Exodus 3:14 calls him the I am that I am. I want us to remember there are three blessings also. Blessing to the reader, blessing to the hearer, and blessing to the keeper. So that if you read, understand the word of God, and keep it, you get three blessings. I don't know anyone who would want to get three blessings. So if you want to be triply blessed, read, hear, or understand, and keep God's word. We go to the Church of Smyrna. Smyrna is the second church, as I said on. Thank you. As I said on Wednesday, Patmos, the Isle of Patmos, is the focal point from which all the message disseminated. But it was also the focal point in another sense, because any messenger who is leaving Patmos would pass through Ephesus, Smyrna, Thyatira, and so on to reach the last church. So it was the route. Smyrna was located 35 miles northeast from Ephesus. It was in a well-protected harbor. It was rich, it was well-populated. Population at that time was about 200,000 strong. It was noted for science and medicine. From there, as I said, you had roads leading to Patmos, Smyrna, and Ephesus. It was famous for its olives, its dates, its palms, and one of its greatest exports was the Smyrna rock. There was also warm springs in Smyrna, and we were told that those like me who suffered arthritis could go there, Sister Francis, and get relief. I'm not saying you have arthritis, Sister Francis, but I have arthritis. Could go to that warm spring and get relief. And it is also said that those who had intestinal problems, when they consumed the water, they would get relief, Brother Pinto. One of the fame of Smyrna is that one of the greatest poets of ancient time was born there, Homer. Those of us who did Latin and did Old World history will remember Homer. However, the Christian community, with all these things, nice things happening in Smyrna, the Christian community was under severe persecution. Smyrna was conquered by these people. The Goths, they were barbarians. The cruel Mongols, the fierce Seljuks, the zealous Crusaders, and we'll come to them further down, and the Kemalist Turks, they were Muslims. By the way, how many of us listen to BBC News? It is called the World News. Remember Paul saying that he had to go to Macedonia because they were calling for help? What did we hear today? Macedonia is calling for help. They traveled. The army fired tear gas and all kind of bullets at members because everybody wants to leave Macedonia. Macedonia, Syria, all these places are overrun with Muslims. What do you come to that? Some of the persecution that Smyrna faced was like one. There was a bloodthirsty Mongol called Timur, T-I-M-U-R. What did Timur do? He slayed the Smyrnians and built a tower with their heads. During the war between the Greeks and the Turks, the city was so ravaged that tens of thousands of Christians died. Now, one of the notable martyrs of that time was Polycarp. He was one of John's disciples, as a matter of fact. When John was placed on the Isle of Patmos, Polycarp became the bishop in his place. Polycarp was burnt alive around 1855, and it said that while he was being burnt, the rebels were drinking and eating and dancing and shaking, while Christian Polycarp was being alive. Yet his death and the death of other Christians brought much fruit, to the extent that Smyrna became one of the strongest Christian communities. As a matter of fact, Smyrna was the last city to yield to Muslim conquest. That is how strong the Christian faith was in Smyrna. Let's go to verse 8, which starts off with Smyrna Church. While our technical people are getting that, could you read verse 8 first, please? Revelation chapter 2. Okay, it's on the board. Is that our famous? Yes, that's our famous New Living Testament. Read first, please.
Write this letter to the angel of the church in Smyrna. This is the message from the one who is the first and the last, who was dead but is now alive.
As we learned both on Sabbath and on Sunday, first and last replicates Exodus chapter 3 verse 14. I am that I am. I was always there, so there could be no first before me. I will always be there, so there will be no one after me. Who was dead and is alive. To the Smyrnians who were facing persecution, the emphasis on the life of Christ is important, because the life of Christ gives them hope and gives them the reason for living in spite of the persecution that they were going through. Verse 9.
I know about your suffering and your poverty, but you are rich. I know the blasphemy of those opposing you. They say they are Jews, but they are not, because their synagogue belongs to Satan.
I know your suffering. The Greek word here for suffering meant pressure. You know about pressure? Have you ever been under pressure? At work, at home, in your community? It also means the burden that crushes. Have you ever been under a burden that you felt? But I can tell you, I'm now 61 plus, coming to meet you. And I collected my research everything on the sleep. I said, okay, I'll help my wife today. And I decided to get rid of some banana stocks that were in the wrong place. And I went with that spade and the machete and so on. And it's then I understood what John meant when he says the burden that crushes. I just had to leave the garden and run in the back porch, take off my shirt and relax on a chair. And I just feel a cold drink in my hand. Thank God for lives. Sister Lovelace. The burden that crushes. These are the periods that the Smyrnians suffered severe persecution under the emperors. There were 7 notable emperors. Trajan, 98 to, oh by the way, the period for Smyrna was 100 AD to 313 AD. 100 AD, 313 AD. Roughly 2 centuries, 200 years. So Trajan, they suffered under Trajan from 98 to 117. They suffered under Hadria from 119 to 138. They suffered under Marcus Aurelius from 161 to 180. They suffered under Decius from 249 to 251. They suffered under Valerian under 253 to 259. Under Diocletian, we'll talk about him another time, 284 to 305. And the last successor unnamed was 305 to 313. This period was called the period of martyrdom. The church stood strong, the church stood firm, the church stood fast. Will your anchor hold in the storms of and your poverty. Why was a church that was so rich in good works, standing true and strong, would have been poor? Remember we said on Sunday that the church had 2 problems. External problems and internal problems. One of the external problems was the Jews, from which they came. I think it's Acts 11 says that they were first called Christians in Antioch. So the problem, as we said then, is that when the Judeo-Roman War took place in AD 68, the Jews expected the Christians to fight with them. But we are not in the violence business. The only violence we are involved in is spiritual violence, spiritual warfare. Wrestle not against flesh or blood. So the Christians said, no. Now remember, I always say that what happened back then is happening now. So we can ask ourselves, when our neighbors have a fight with our next neighbor, and they say, I want your support, what do you do? Pray. Yes, pray all these words. So the Jews took offense to the fact that the Christians said, we are not supporting you, not getting involved. And since the Jewish religion was the only religion outside the Roman pagan religion that was considered official, then the Christian religion was anathema. It was outlawed. So if your religion is outlawed and you continue to practice, you also will be outlawed. So the Smyrnians lost their business places, they lost their homes, and they lost their good name. So from a material point of view, they were good. But Christ says, they were rich in good works, they were rich in spiritual things, they were rich in the love of Christ that availeth much. I know the blasphemy of those opposing you. Blasphemy. Blasphemy is the act or offense of evil or profane utterance to or about God, or to anyone or anything that represents God. So if you say there's no God, you blaspheme. But it also includes irreverence, chewing in church. I wouldn't say anymore. I'm sure in your mind you start to calm them down. It includes cursing, it includes being, what word should I use? Disrespectful to God's representative. That whole first I studied him, I can say it once. But I remember when he used to do so and so, he can't tell me nothing now. God's representatives, blaspheme. That's how far it goes. And also it includes desecration. I knew I left out one. To deal with desecration. What we do with holy things. Our Bibles, our hymnals, our church clothes, the church environment, how we treat this. And the pews, I came here on Sunday. When we had the last meeting on Sunday, and I saw that a crayon on one of the pews. Brother, I remember how much we paid for one of these pews, you know? And I remember when we went to get the design and everything for the pews. And back then we said, what? For one pew? And when I saw the set of demarcations. And what made it worse, the demarcation was yellow. They say they are Jews. Jews refers to those who claim to be representatives of God, bearing his message of salvation to the commonwealth of the saints. Remember, it was the Jews who got Polycarp, Paul's disciple, killed. We'll read first Romans chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. To show us how important being a Jew was and how important being a spiritual Jew is. Romans chapter 3 verses 1 and 2.
But what advantage a Jew, or what profit is there in circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God.
So that the Jews were the first ambassadors of God to the world. So that we're very important. And we, you and I, spiritual Jews, have the same mission. Have you accepted the mission? They are not. Now, that's a New Living Translation. But they are not, I think in the King James Version has hypocrites. Verse 9, does it say hypocrites? They are not. Okay. The Greek said hypocrites. That's what happened. The Greek said hypocrites. And the Greek word hypocrite comes from hippo crisis. And those people like Brother Campbell who write plays and do play acting and so on, you would understand what I'm going to say. But you would also, play acting was a dramatization by an actor who is involved in a particular degree in interpreting and assessing the character that he or she is portraying. So I must behave like the person, I must sound like the person, and I must portray myself as a person. But why the Greeks love plays, Brother Campbell? The Romans didn't like plays, and they considered the Greeks hypocrites, meaning that they were counterfeit. They could not be trusted. So that Christ was saying about those who say they were Jews, that they were hypocrites. They could not be trusted. Have everyone ever called you Seventh Adventists a hypocrite? What they're actually telling you is that you cannot be trusted. Synagogue of Satan. Let me give you a little history to the synagogue. In Prophets and Kings, page 6, 12 and 16. Sister White says that the Jews as a nation were only formed during exile to Babylon and after. So before that, they weren't Jews, they were Israelites. Let me read it for you. The institution of Judaism did not flourish until during and after the Babylonian captivity of the Israelites. Now, the Jewish community was supposed to have at least one synagogue, and this is how it happens. If Jews move into a community, as long as there are 10 adult male Jews, they are supposed to have a synagogue. And the first 10 will be considered the elders of the synagogue. Now, the synagogue wasn't primarily a place of worship. The temple was. But the synagogue was used for worship. It was used as a local court. It was used as a school for educational purposes. And this was very interesting. When I saw this one, I remember the Muslims. It was also used as a place to administer corporal punishment to bad behaved boys and men. You know, if you go down to that place on Mukaku Road, corporal punishment is administered, you know? Yes, corporal punishment is administered down there. So that the synagogue became a meeting place for social reasons and for also religious purposes. It was administered by a board of elders. It preserved the religion of the Jews, it preserved their culture, and it preserved their Jewishness. So that meetings took place there. Constructive meetings and destructive meetings. Synagogue that belongs to Satan. Remember also that the Jewish-Roman War of AD 68 and the destruction of Jerusalem, both the Jews and the Christians migrated far and wide. So that there were synagogues everywhere. But remember, the Christians weren't allowed. There's something very interesting about the synagogue that I need to share with us. And I'll give you the text. You won't read it. You want to do some homeless like immigrants. James chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. James chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. Matthew chapter 23, verse 6. Matthew chapter 23, verse 6. Luke chapter 4, verses 16 through 20. I'll comment on this last one. because we just finished the book of Luke. Remember, Jesus got up for to read. That text sounds familiar? Jesus got up for to read, and they gave him the book. And after he read, he sat down, and the man took the scroll from him. All right, this is how the synagogue was. It had a reading desk like this. And this is where, when John said, blessed is he who reads, he was talking about the person who reads on the desk. And blessed are they who hear, were the people who were sitting. However, the only people who sat were the rich people. Yeah, they only provided lectures for the rich people. Everybody else stood. Yeah. And after the person read, they would sit down. And then they would explain the word. They didn't explain the word standing. They read standing. And they would sit and read the word. When you do like if you read and read that, you will see for yourself. There was a chest for the scrolls. So after those sacred, remember we were talking about sacred things? When those sacred scrolls were finished being read, they were taken from the reader, very gently placed back in the parchment and placed in the chest. So in other words, I kind of getting a picture here that our Bible is supposed to be in a special place.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know, I'm just asking. The Bible on the kitchen table on the counter where you have wares, your Bible in the washroom, on the washing machine with a set of soap and bleach and all kind of things. I don't know. My Bible has a special place because it's the Holy Word. And I said before, there were seats for the rich. So this is what the Spirit was saying to John, that the synagogue belongs to Satan. Because it was in the synagogue that the Jews planned to get rid of the Christians. Right. We go to verse 10.
Don't be afraid of what you are about to suffer. The devil will throw some of you into prison to test you. You will suffer for 10 days. But if you remain faithful, even when facing death, I will give you the crown of life.
Don't be afraid of what you are about to suffer. Now there's one thing when you don't know what you're going to suffer. There's no fear. There is no fear of the unknown. But when you know what you're going to suffer, it's that perspiration, your heart palpitating, and most times you want to go in the other place. You know what I'm talking about. At this particular point in time, the Sconians had not as yet, as reflected there, been persecuted. But they heard about the persecution taking place in Ephesus, as we mentioned Wednesday. And because, as I said, any message that took place started from Patmos and going to Ephesus and Smyrna and so on, they know trouble was coming. And so the Spirit told them in advance, don't be afraid. It also implies that they were afraid. Because they wouldn't tell somebody, don't be afraid, if they're not afraid. So they were fearful of impending persecution. So the Spirit says, don't be afraid. And there's a text, I think it's Matthew 28, 20. It's not in the script, but I'm just saying, Christ says, lo, I will be with you all the way, even unto the end of the age. So Christ, the Spirit isn't saying anything different. Don't be afraid. The devil will throw some of you into prison to test you. There's always this sermon, one of the sermons that always come up in crusades, for those of us who go to crusades, is why does bad thing? Have you as yet come up with an answer? But why is this happening to me? I serve God day and night. This shouldn't happen to me. I return time, an offering. I come to church early on Sabbath mornings. I don't talk in church. I pray. I worship. Morning and evening. Lord, why this thing happen? The answer says to remember I said Wednesday night, when we want to tell the Lord, stop the world, we want to get off. And we remember that there were Christians in Ephesus. It's the same thing. Don't stop the world, Lord. Bring the test, because I know you will be with me. God permits persecution as a means of proving, testing, and strengthening. Now, let's face it. You have your little child, and you're teaching them to ride a bicycle, or you're teaching them the Shepherd's Psalm, or in my time, the Beatitudes. How do you prove them? How do you test them? How do they become strong in memorizing the text? They have to say it. But you will be there with them to correct them, to instruct them in righteousness, and to say, nice, even though they say what's wrong. We still have to remember that back then, Christianity was not an official religion. The Roman Emperor Trajan laid down his first official policy towards Christians. It was called the 97th letter. And he sent it both to Pliny, his governor in Bithynia, and also Pontus in Asia Minor. This is what he said. Do not hunt down the Christians. Sounds nice, huh? But if they are brought before the courts for other reasons, and in going through the case, you found out that they were Christians, kill them. Which one do you prefer? To be hunted down because you're a Christian? Upfront? Or to know somebody say you steal a chicken, and you go before the court, and the person says, your accuser says, my Lord, he's a Christian. According to Brother Musa. The interesting thing is that the Christians and the Jews live side by side. So at any morning, your neighbor, the Jew, could wake up and say, he did so and so, take him to court. And from the time you land in court, the Jew say, my Lord, he's a Christian. So imagine how you as a Christian living. You're living in fear. You're making sure your children stay inside. They ain't talk to the Jew children because they might say something bad to them. Or they might skin the face at them. You know children doesn't behave. Or the Jew might say, the children skin the face at them. Court, my Lord is a Christian. This is what actually happened. Christians had no local standard. Now this rule remained in force until Constantine, that nice fellow, Brother Conjero, Constantine, the nice fellow, he stopped it in AD 313. So for 200 years, Christians' life or their death lay in the hands of their Jewish neighbors and their pagan neighbors. That is, to be left in peace and live, or to be reported and die was in the hands of your neighbor. And there was a term for it, it was called permissive persecution. Permissive persecution. 10 days. Now there are two schools of thoughts on this. People like Brother Wilson and Brother Conjero. One school of thought says it was a literal 10 days. But doing some more research, Brother Thompson, I want to go with the other one that Daniel spoke about in Daniel chapter 7, I think it was. The day for year system. I go with that. Because what I found out is that the persecution period, the worst persecution period was from 303 to 313. The last time I checked, 303 plus 10 is 313. During that time, Diocletian was determined to wipe out Christianity once and for all. So he burned the scriptures, he destroyed the church buildings, and he imprisoned all the leaders, including Polycarp. Now we have to remember that back then, as we said on Sunday, that the Roman emperor was considered a god, so that he had to be worshipped. So Diocletian said that the Christians had grown too much in strength and popularity. Doesn't that bring us back to the Egyptian time? When it was said that the Jews were multiplying too much for us. So Diocletian banned Christianity throughout the entire Roman Empire. So we're talking from India down to Africa, across West Europe and East Europe. He said if he concentrated on the leaders, the members would scatter. Read for us Zechariah chapter 13, verse 7.
Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, the man who is my partner, says the Lord of heaven's armies. Strike down the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered, and I will turn against the lambs.
It seems as though Diocletian was a student of scripture, but I couldn't do it. And that's what he did. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter, and you go after the sheep one by one. But one of the interesting things about Diocletian is that he started in his army. He started in the Roman army. Reader, I didn't give you this text, but I think it's too important for you not to read part of the text. Acts chapter 10. I don't know if our technical people can find that quickly first. Acts chapter 10. We will take just about verse 1 to 3. Acts chapter 10. And you'll understand why he started in the army, the Roman army.
In Caesarea, there lived a Roman army officer named Cornelius, who was a captain of the Italian regiment.
Okay. That was a special band. And to this term, they will be called the Special Forces. For those of you who like to watch all these movies and things, those were Special Forces. They were the ones who go in where no one else would go and bring out what no one else could bring out. Continue.
He was a devout, God-fearing man as was everyone in his household. He gave generously to the poor and prayed regularly to God.
Stop it. You get the picture? He was a general in the Roman army, but he was Christian. Now, in your own time, you read the whole chapter, because that is chapter talk about when Peter was told, rise up, kill, and eat. Rise up, kill, and eat. Rise up, kill, and eat. And you'll get the rest of the story. As a matter of fact, tradition says that Cornelius was one of the Roman generals that was killed. So it didn't only happen outside. It happened on the inside. So we spoke about the 10 days. Historian Theodoret wrote in AD 323 that there was a council of Nicaea, N-I-C-A-E, where the bishops of the Christian church met after that massacre took place from 303 to 313. And this is what he said. Some came without eyes. Some came without hands because they were pulled from their sockets. And some came with bodies so disfigured from torture. But he said, they came. And he said, they did not come to report their troubles, but they came to report their triumphs. Let me say it again. The bishops met, like how we had that conference session. Some came without eyes. Some came without hands because they were pulled from their sockets. Some came with bodies so disfigured because they were tortured. But they came, and they didn't come to report their troubles. They came to report their triumphs. Because of souls that were plucked from eternal damnation. As a matter of fact, Quintus Septimus Florence Tertullianus, that's the man's name. He was a 2nd century author, and he was also a disciple of John. He made this famous statement: the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. Why? It implies that the martyr's willingness to die leads to the conversion of others. We take this statement lightly. Monkey see, monkey do. This is one time that we as Christians must apply that. Monkey see, monkey do. But I love this, that means, I see you watching me in a kind of intense way. That means, whatever I see you do, I am inclined to do. And that's the work of a Christian. By the lives that we live, by the words that we speak, by the way we deport ourselves, people would have no choice, even in jest, to call us Christians as they did in the days of Antioch. There's a text, it's not in scripture, where Christ says, fear not them that can kill your body, but fear him who can kill both body. Be faithful unto death. Be faithful even facing death. Be faithful even when it means you will die. The church is to endure and to be found rich in faith, up to and including death. Remember earlier he says, you're poor, but you're rich. Rich in faith. And it takes us to that story reader, Daniel chapter 3, verses 16 and 18. And while the reader's finding that, I want to tell us something. Whenever I speak about Daniel and his 3 friends, I use the Jewish name. And I will explain something to you. I didn't work with references, but I promise you I'll bring it for you on Sunday. Whenever, the only times that the words Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are used is when Nebuchadnezzar is speaking to them or about them. Because they were the names given by. But anytime the words Mishael, Hananiah, and Azariah are used is when Daniel. Praise the Lord. You get my message? You get my message? I'll give you the references on Sunday, as another person said, not now. So read for us Daniel chapter 3, verses 16 to 18.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you.
Now, notice, Nebuchadnezzar was talking to them, and they are talking to him. So, the reference is the Babylonian names. Go ahead.
If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty.
Amen.
But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. Amen.
In other words, in Trinidad Palace, you could do what you want. We're not bowing down. Because there's someone who is greater than I. Rich in faith, up to, and even if that comes. Now, we might not be called to face death. Literal death. But symbolic death we face almost every day. In our workplaces, you have to come to work on Saturday. We have a special production taking place, and if you ain't come, don't come, man. Oh, you're living by your laws? No offense to anybody, I'm just making a point. I'll put some things in our pot here. Just train some seasonal thing for me. A non-seasonal thing already. And then I say, well, try to take pot for me now. And from there to here, you realize the shrimp, the stick foot, the stick tail, some duck. We facing that every day, symbolic death. And our determination would show where we would go eventually. Because every step we make in the other direction makes it easier to go a next step in the other direction. Every day we face symbolic death. We are tested, proven, and tried. But along with that, remember, we said we are also strengthened with the test. Crown of life. Crown of life. Now, remember we said on Sabbath that John was writing in language of his day. Remember we said that? And he used symbols, illustrations of his day. John couldn't talk about guns. He couldn't talk about napalm bomb. He couldn't talk about sarin gas. They didn't have those things back then. But the word used for crown was not a golden crown. Remember I said on Sunday that there was the Punion Games that took place. That was the forerunner for the Olympic Games. And Paul, yes, I have that text, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. Paul said something about that. It was wreath of flowers, a garland of flowers, or special leaves that they would put around your head. If you look at any Roman emperor, you'll see him with a garland around his head, entwined with special branches, special trees with leaves on them. Read for us, read up.
Don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win.
This sounds like a oxymoron. Nice little word, Stacy. Oxymoron. It seems not to make sense. If everybody running and one gets the prize. But in the Christian race, we all are seen as, so every gets the. So Brother Hernandez, if you don't run, you don't get yours. Because when you run to win. That's what Paul is saying. So we don't see ourselves as a crowd running, but we see ourselves as running. And I keep my eyes on the prize. Now, crown of life is also a symbol of the reward that is given to a victor in the struggle with Satan. But that same crown is also evidence. While it is a symbol, it is also evidence of the victory over the devil and his angels because of the tribulation that he caused. Second death. Second death. Be faithful unto death, and I'll give you the crown of life. Now, this is the shortest message in the three churches, in the 7 churches. And I'm glad it happened on a Friday night because we want to get home and worship early in the morning. Now, the first death ended human life temporarily. You agree with me? Yeah. From which there is a resurrection, both for the just and the unjust. Let me say that again. The first death ended human life temporarily, from which there is a resurrection, both for the just and the unjust. However, the second death, and this is what he's speaking about it, the second death ends human life permanently, from which there is no resurrection for the unjust, but permanent life for the just. You see this again? The second death ends human life permanently, from which there is no resurrection for the unjust, but permanent life for the just. Remember 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 that speaks about, and we who are alive, go and forever be the Lord. Second death, crown of life. What I want us to do at this time as we close is to locate in our Bibles Romans chapter 8, verses 35 to 39. As our reader reads it on the screen. Romans chapter 8, verses 35 through 39. Reader, let's all read. Can you see any more? I'd like all of us to read together, please, because this is a commitment that we are making tonight. 3, is it there? Right. 3, 4.
Can anything ever separate us from Christ's love? Does it mean he no longer loves us if we have trouble or calamity, or are persecuted, or hungry, or destitute, or in danger, or threatened with death? As the scripture says, for your sake we are killed every day. We are being slaughtered like sheep. No and I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love. Neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today, nor our worries about tomorrow, not even the powers of hell can separate us from God's love. No power in the sky above or in the earth below, indeed, nothing in all creation will ever be able to separate us from the love of God that is revealed in Christ Jesus our Lord.
Remember, the message that was given to John came from Jesus Christ himself. Same person who reveals his love to us. Tonight, we have just committed ourselves to serving God, to staying with him, and to keeping our eyes on the prize. As we have committed ourselves to God, I would ask you to stand with me so that we can dedicate ourselves to his service for his honor and for his glory. Eternal Father, you have heard our commitment. It is written in heaven as a record. We testify tonight that we will serve you all the way, even up to and unto death. Bless us as we separate ourselves tonight, but not from your presence, is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Good night, brethren. We shall sit. Also from SDA Church, baptized around 2012, just around the time that we moved up to Pinto Church, and happened to be my neighbor, and we are very good friends. So we learned on Wednesday, someone met me and asked me for notes for Wednesday because they weren't here. But I can briefly tell you that what we learned